Time for Here's the Deal. Joining us tonight, Mark Busse, Paul Doroshenko, and of course Lee Checkstead. And we're going to start with Tad Milmine retiring from the RCMP. He's taking his anti-bullying project and he's moving to Alberta. Drastic?
It's a personal choice, right? I mean, you know what I did when I was before the show? I went to his website and I read a lot of it. And one of the things he does is he posts his schedule, upcoming and past. Mm-hmm. You know, he spoke something like 300 days last year. Mm-hmm. So I ask you this, if you were his boss, regardless of who he worked for, mm-hmm. would you let him spend that much time, you know, when you asked him to focus and do a job? And I don't know, I don't know that we're getting the whole picture here.
I felt the same way. I feel like there's a lot more that I don't know.
Yeah.
I admire the work that he has done.
Absolutely.
At the same time, it seems like it was taking a lot of time away from
his primary occupation.
Primary job that he was doing.
But you know what? They're getting value for money. What is he doing? He's out there discouraging bullying.
So create
people.
that position within the RCMP and he
They
can
do.
fill it.
He de facto created it.
Absolutely.
He created it. So,
he should then... But he was still being asked to do a regular job, which, given my limited...
The RCMP were already on to looking at this and expanding his role. And then they looked at it and expanded his role, and they were going to add more bureaucracy to his role. And they wanted to have all sorts of different oversight over him, which, you know, is very typical of a federal government organization like the RCMP. And the next thing you know, they want to micromanage him all the way. There's somebody who's going to look at every email that goes out that he sends out. So you can see that he would get frustrated, and you can understand that the guy might want to leave. But, you know, were they getting value from money? As taxpayers, I think you're getting value for money from a guy who goes out and speaks 300 times a day.
He's very likable. I really enjoyed your interview with him, and he comes off so affable and nice. And of course, this issue is very important to me. I too volunteer and do a lot of work in this space. But he's also taken a very entrepreneurial approach.
And that's the problem.
He's
federal agency, entrepreneurial.
Charity on the side, raising money on the side, very independent. You know, he didn't toe the party line.
Well,
he wasn't doing what he was told.
For a city government like Calgary, and they're probably going to be more flexible about it than the RCMP would be.
You raise a really valid point, though. The minute you're doing that much on your secondary employment...
I have employees, and we have to be careful. My employees are forbidden from working freelance outside of our space without my knowledge because it can really impede their ability to work for me and do it can really backfire. Mm-hmm. And but they already have...
More and more people are doing that, and I'm not saying that you don't pay well, but more and more people are doing that to make ends meet, right?
Yeah,
feeling like they need to take two jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's,
lawyers who work for me have other things that they do on the side.
Clearly he has an altruistic spirit. He's passionate about this.
Yeah.
But it can also, I think, become overwhelming. He has become obsessed by this personal mission of his.
I wish his
It's a great mission. I hope maybe he'd do it all, full time.
Yep. In his next chapter, he finds exactly what he's looking for and maybe a better fit, and he can just say the RCMP was a learning experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was only on the force for 4 years.
I wouldn't want to be.
So it's not like he's given up a lengthy career.
Surprising how many police officers are only on the force for 4.5 years or something.
Sure.
A lot of people get
discouraged. You mean all the ones you accuse of drinking and driving?
A lot of them. You've noticed my posts lately. It's not just been RCMP officers. I want to highlight the hypocrisy of it a little bit. And the police officers come out and
Police officers are people too.
I know they
are. And people are fallible.
And exactly.
So are politicians.
They make mistakes.
Yeah, they do. All right, let's talk about access to justice, and you can give us firsthand knowledge.
Yes, I can. Mm-hmm. What would you like to know?
Well, the Chief Justice of BC says justice is in a perilous position.
Yeah, he's right. But I don't think it's merely an issue of justice being in a perilous position. I think it's people, regular folks who are working, trying to pay for a service that's expensive. And it's a situation, you look at wages haven't increased much in the last decade or so.
4 or 5 years.
I'm charging the same amount for a lot of the things that I did 15 years ago. So it's not like my fees went up a lot. We, as Jason said, we made a conscious decision in our office to go somewhere where the rent was cheap, so we didn't have to have our clients paying for $45 a square foot.
But if I'm in a pickle, and trust me, I'm going to say this on television.
You get into the
I'm going to say no.
I've just been waiting.
But if I did, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say this. Ready? Paul is top of mind now. If something went terribly wrong, I might actually phone Paul, and I make an okay wage. But if I can't afford you, what are my options? Like,
Well,
and
that's,
if I decide,
that's the problem.
right?
And
Like, and if I
that's the problem
decide
the
to go
Chief
in-
Justice was pointing out. I mean, what you've got, and it's particular with family cases, is you've got all these people who are self-represented. They show up in court. They don't really know
don't
what
have
the
a clue.
legal
I have no
issue is
legal.
gonna
I don't know
be.
the issues. I don't know what I'm allowed
And
to
the
do.
Chief Justice is talking about trying to simplify this. Well, I'll tell you, that goes back a long way. Like, it's 30 years of lawyers talking about that. We've tried to simplify it as much as possible. You know what? The law is complex. You can only simplify it so much.
Right.
We, you know, as lawyers have to answer all sorts of esoteric questions from our clients and going all sorts of different directions. It's impossible to anticipate them all with a frequently asked questions section on the court's website. I mean, it's just, you have to have lawyers. It's on, you know, it's just a
I should have been a
feature
lawyer.
of the, and you would have been a good one.
I would have been a good lawyer.
All right, and it won't be fixed anytime soon, will it? That's
Well, no. I mean, the problem is that people have to have lawyers. How are you going to pay for lawyers? The government doesn't want to pay for lawyers for people who are impoverished. The legal aid tariffs have been the same for 25 years. The lawyers who do legal aid, I'll tell you, most of them are just scraping by.
Right.
Most of them make that decision to do legal aid knowing that they're not ever going to make much money, but they want to help people. And, like, there's
How
a
nice
lot
is
of
that?
altruistic lawyers out there.
Again,
You talk to
altruism,
all
it's
the
a
lawyers
theme.
who are, you know, there's wonderful, wonderful altruistic lawyers out there, but they shouldn't have to also be living in poverty and doing a marginal job because they're not earning
Fund it
enough to
properly.
be able to do it.
right. Speaking of altruistic people, let's throw politicians into the ring. Miranda Rossotti will text me or email me and say, you've done it again. You threw politicians under the bus. But the Alberta Premier had to pay back $45,000 for her trip to South Africa.
Well, it wasn't just that. There was a trip, apparently $3,100, where she flew one of her daughter's friends.
Yes, to spend more time together as a family on the backs
I just don't
of
understand.
the Alberta taxpayers.
I understand how politicians think that they should be able to make those decisions and do that. They're in a privileged place. That I get.
Really?
I do.
I don't.
I do. I understand how they
me.
could think that or get confused. But how do the systems allow that? Is there not some mechanism
'Cause you're
where
the
someone
boss.
goes, you can't do that. That's not.
You know
that's
what?
not
'Cause you're the
permitted. You
boss.
can't fly. spend
Not much of a
15
mechanism in Alberta.
Apparently
I will
not.
agree with you, but I think that the mechanism, any kind of mechanism, is actually kicking into gear now because of the Senate scandal in Ottawa. A year,
Right.
2 years
Maybe,
ago,
yeah,
had this
sure,
not
yeah. Had all sorts
had
of scandals.
$45,000
Yeah,
been
maybe.
not been claimed, it may have been brushed over. But I think everyone is so heightened to this issue right now.
Well, but we've been
that-
heightened to it over the years. Like
Decades and decades and decades.
Exactly.
Back in
I
Alberta,
think
we
it's
watched this before.
particular-
We saw it
particularly
under.
bad.
Call me
Ron
naive,
Getty,
though.
Ralph
I mean,
Klein.
I've read her background. She has a lot of foreign policy experience. She's traveled a lot. She's worked in these spaces. I mean, it seems not totally
She's
inappropriate.
an intelligent, thoughtful woman, and
She should have gone to that funeral. I don't think that was important.
It was
but
how she got there.
everybody
that
else-
It was that it cost
$45,000,
$45,000, right?
$45,000.
That was ridiculous.
And
Take your
it's-
commercial
seriously,
flight.
The Nova Scotia guy was less than $1,000.
Well, that's not possible. That's what he claimed.
That's
you
what
can't
he
fly
claimed.
to South Africa for
I think he went on.
$1,000.
That's a
No,
lie.
but I think
You
he
can't
went
fly
on the
to
Prime Minister's
Calgary.
plane or
Flight to
something
Toronto.
like that.
Probably.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, and you know what? What it speaks to is how quickly the media are onto these stories and how decisions have to be reversed.
No. The media is not onto it quickly. The media is onto it when they get a Freedom of Information request that discloses what happened.
Right.
Look, it's already Nelson Mandela died a while back now, right? Like this is.
Yeah, we're talking
it's
about
not
You're
that
right.
quickly.
It's not like they're
takes time.
transparent.
And by the time it comes out, there's lots of little tiny scandals or scandals that are medium range that should be exposed, but they're not timely enough to end up on TV. It's not going to be something that the media picks up on.
The next time you have a scandal, you call me.
I've got dozens of them in my office, but they're not necessarily timely enough. We do Freedom of Information requests all the time. You just wait to see what's coming.
All right. Have you done one on Busse?
Do it.
Yeah, well,
Google pickle and Busse and see what
you
happens.
know what? I don't need to relieve.
Oh, you do
reveal
not want
all
to
of
see what
that.
happens when you Google
Yes.
pickle and Busse.
Right. Thank you, Mark Busse, Paul
My pickle.
Doroshenko, and Lee Checkstad. When Unfiltered continues, concerns are being expressed with ambulance response time in BC. Paramedics fire up the lights and sirens less often. So what's happening to patient care?